So good. Okay, so okay, yeah. So a few things I want to bring in, but just want to get an idea where we all are, and generally just have a bit of a catch up. Really, it's kind of looking like July is the time when we can start doing our stuff again. Yeah,
that's good.
Which is good. I mean, that's the truth is that's reading between the lines. Nobody told me anything, so there isn't clear, you know, like everything. I mean, shops open from Monday, don't they? Generally, shops open from Monday.
And beauty therapists and hairdressers and massage parlours and so forth are earmarked for the 4th of July, aren't they? So yeah. I guess that's where you're taking your.
That's where we're taking our guide, and we've been looking. Olivia and I spent sort of a fair chunk of yesterday looking at sort of your, you know, the catch-up days, for whatever word we want to call them. Those 4 days where we've got to try and get back together again, and we've penciled in sort of middle of July for that. So just I don't want to kind of absolutely rubber stamp it because I can't, because you know as much as I do, and I also know that the moment I say this, there'll be people saying, well, I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z and life and all the rest of it. So what we're looking for, just so you know what we're looking for. So we've penciled in the 20th to the 23rd, so 4 days, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 20th to the 23rd inclusive in July. Okay, so that's what we kind of put in. So have a ponder and see, and if that is impossible, if you're looking at that and going, look, I'm on holiday or whatever's going on in life, then there will be other options, but it won't be as a group. It will be come and join those couple of days, or it's going to be a little bit of mix and match. You know, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, but I think we wanted to try and get something in as soon as possible to let you know, look, can you do, even if you do some of those days or whatever. So that's what we put in.
Could rather than being a full block, maybe 2 weeks, maybe the week before or the week after that, just to break it into two.
No.
Sorry, it is. I'm just throwing out there. But if not, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, the answer is that's what we've decided to do. And if there's problems with that, and people can only do a couple of days of that or bits of it or whatever, then I think I've said all along we're committed to making sure you end this bonkers journey feeling that you've got everything you need to go out and do it. I think I felt having a group of days together made more sense, given that we're all a bit bitty. I wanted momentum over 4 days. That was my thinking about it. But I get people have different views about it. I completely get that. And I understand the behind the scenes kind of childcare and all the other stuff that goes on in life that makes things happen. But that's what we thought. Right, we'll start with that. It's where we are with the government and what they decide to tell us in terms of letting go. But I'm fairly hopeful that should be the case. All the signs are that we're heading in the right. Would you agree with that, guys? I mean, Vicky, you're a bit,
it feels that way at the minute.
Yeah, you're tuned into some of this stuff, aren't you? Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they're starting to accelerate stuff a bit more now, doesn't it? I think the pressure's really mounting to get as many industries back as you possibly can.
Especially today's announcement.
Yeah, unless something happens with a second spike or anything else like that, it does feel, I think, realistic that they'll keep pushing with all of this stuff. Yeah.
And I don't know, you again reading between the lines, and the World Health Organization have talked a lot about this 2 meter distancing and somewhere that needs to be reduced.
I think it will as well. I think we'll see reductions.
I think it's going to have to be, because with schools, it's such a problem to get schools back while you've got 2 meter social distancing that I think their only answer is they're going to have to reduce that. Yeah.
And if the World Health Organization is saying, look, that needs to be looked at, then I can't see any other way of doing it. And you know, you have to about schools, but you know, your office where you work, Vicky, you know, how the hell are you going to, you know, and the whole kind of you know, pubs and clubs and, you know, all that, hotel, restaurants, how are you going to, you know, I was chatting to a friend of mine runs a restaurant in Nailsworth, just down the road, and her and her partner run it, and the numbers don't add up. You know, to get the distancing, the covers that even if they were packed out through the evening, you know, they just don't. They won't.
It's just not viable.
They break even. You know, they break even. So. Crazy times, but I think that hopefully, I'm fairly hopeful in the next fortnight we'll hear some further reductions and further kind of common sense involved. And I've completed my risk assessment and beginning to change the building to allow everybody back in and social distance and all the stuff that goes on. We've worked out we can have 8 people in a classroom. We've done that yesterday. So for us, you know, the kitchen won't be used and, you know, certain things, and we have an urn in the teaching rooms, and you'll bring your cup and you'll bring your cups of tea or whatever you want with you, and you'll be self kind of contained in a little red spot in the room, and that will be where you stay. Yeah, and if you tread out of it, then you'll get zapped or something like that. I don't know.
A buzzer goes off.
Yeah.
So Chris, just to remind me, the 4 days that you're talking on starts on a Monday, the 20th through Thursday, or Tuesday through Friday?
No, it's the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
Okay.
And the other bit I would add to this, that, you know, we finished like they're the 8, whatever you want to call. But if you after that think, Chris, it would be really helpful to have a morning where I come in and join a group to go over X and Y, then I'm very open to all of that. You know, and so I don't want you to think, oh, well, that's it, you know, because of the disruption and because of the craziness of it all. I think we've decided that we need to be just flexible about it all, and you know, and if you're flexible with us, we'll be flexible with you. And you think, well, I like to just come and watch a group do X and Y or whatever.
That's really good to hear, actually, because it does feel that, you know, almost until we get back into it, I feel like I might not even know what I don't know yet, and it might suddenly hit me and I think, oh gosh, I've forgotten X and Y, and so that's helpful to know.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, particularly with I think the holistic groups and reflexology, aromatherapy are slightly different. There's a kind of a routine to them. With sports massage, it is all about what you find and what you're looking for, and the discussion you have with people. So, for instance, I would really like a day after this 4 days where, I mean, I don't know how practical this is, people will laugh at me, but it would be great to get some Joe Public in for you to do some posture assessment and to work on, you know, and that's usually what we do at the end of the case. You know, the last day is that we get 6 people in and you do a treatment on them, an assessment. It's brilliant, kind of bringing it all together. Obviously at the moment that just seems like a logistic nightmare, but yeah, we'll see what happens. So anyway, yeah, I'm up for discussion, but we had to put something in the diary, had to put something in the mix, but I do get that for some that will be complex, and obviously Joanna is in the back, you know, she'll be hearing this, and Carl will be hearing this. I don't know where Carl is in terms of his move up to Scotland, if he's in the process of that. And I haven't heard at all from James. I don't know, is anybody...
What happened to him? You haven't heard from him at all?
No, I've left messages for him a couple of times and just sort of said, hi, give me an update, where are you? I think he lost his job, and I think he was sort of main family, you know, care support. His partner was working from home, I think. But I've lost touch with him a bit. He's still on this group, and he still gets... I think he hasn't dropped out of the WhatsApp group. I think he probably still picks up those groups, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, sure, people have to respond by what they have to respond with, don't they? Anyway, so that's my news. But I'll keep you up to date with what's going on. So, shall we go around and just get a sense of where we are? And Emma, you mentioned your husband, Emma. Is he on recovery?
Yeah,
I mean,
good. Yeah. So yeah, it's, you know, I can't see inside the body, but from the outside, it all seems good.
He looks about the same.
Yeah. I still wary of the massage, and I haven't this week. I want to almost give it another, you know, like next week or maybe today, to get my hands back on him, put him on the slab. But Yeah, I must confess I haven't really done anything massage-wise this week. We've been ripping out the kitchen, so it's been quite refreshing to be focused on something physical instead of studying or working.
Good.
So yeah, that's my confession. Really, nothing has taken place massage-wise this week.
That's right. Look, just as a side note, interestingly, I've got a just interesting people that I contact over the year. A lady called Helen who's a nurse, who her husband's a GP. She phoned me last week and was talking about PPE and her practice. She lives down in Devon, and she was talking about PPE and this and the other. And we were just talking about the post-viral kind of conditions that people were getting. Yeah. And her and her husband were, Graham, her guy I know quite well as well. And he's, and you probably know from your contacts that a lot of people have had clots post-viral.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
COVID-19, and it's been quite common, I think, almost. And
yes, yeah. In fact, I'd read about this back in March, so I'd said to Andy, take an aspirin a day to counter that, and in fact that's what he was doing, but one aspirin a day wasn't enough to counter the strength, the viscosity of the blood and what's left. So yeah,
when I asked Helen's husband about massage and post-op, the kind of thinking that his phrase was, it would probably help, but go easy.
Yeah.
So that was his statement. Now, that's not perfect, that's advice, but it's interesting to just think, actually, just because somebody's had a clot and whatever they've happened, that actually at some point in the future, some gentle treatment work is going to help this guy, and obviously you get advice around that and get that right. And, every case is different, isn't it? But it was just reassuring for me to think these people need to be touchable.
Yes.
We need, bless him, he needs to be touched again, doesn't he? And rather than being untouchable.
What I've been doing is smoothing him. I call it smoothing. So it's just kind of, it's using the techniques, but just as a smooth rather than a deep tissue. So that's what. So he's been getting the touch.
Lucky man. I mean, it's so much as well, isn't it? And the trauma of all that, and feeling, oh, bless you. It's awful, isn't it? Absolutely awful. So I'm pleased. That's good. Any other bits, Emma, that you want to bring in or think about? Or?
No, not really. Just that I just want to get stuck in again, and obviously the sooner the better.
Yeah, of course. Audrey, do you want to sort of anything else you want to?
Yeah, so I am conscious I haven't produced the video as requested. I know I have the plan. I know what I'm doing. I just couldn't materialize the body on the spot when we agreed. Anyway, so just a long story short for everybody else on the call. I now have a stepdaughter, 23, and a stepson living with us, which means we are at full capacity. For some reason, they still perceive themselves as children, so we are absorbing, obviously, the cost, which means that I am coming to the realization. The thing about being children is they see themselves differently somehow, but I have 4 adults, and every day I have an absolutely nightmare, even to try and agree what we are going to eat tonight. So it's hard. But other than that, we are talking to each other. We are all fine. Today is obviously the first time they go and see Nanny, who's been by herself for over 3 months. My stepson comes into this house on the back of separation, which is definite. He leaves 2 very small children in Worcester. I think he met them once, and we are planning to meet each other again this Sunday. He can't drive, so I'm also a taxi driver. So logistically, we are absolutely bursting at the seams. But we are all good. So he is in a better place. He's seeing a doctor. He's having, they're both low. So I'm trying to keep them occupied with some sort of exercise, and we are getting somewhere, but it's slow. It's slow. I think a week or so ago I was very tearful. Anyway.
Sounds like you're doing your best.
It does. It sounds a tough situation, and just keeping going through it step at a time, I guess, is all you can do, isn't it? But it sounds like you're doing your best, definitely.
It's okay. So.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you know these kind of groups and meetings that I have every day, and you hear people's stories of where people are, and I always feel really privileged when people's able to sort of share their journey with us. And even though it's tough, I'd like to give you a big hug, but I can't do that. So we are where we are. But I think it's nice to hear. However, it's obviously very painful, and it's important that we listen, and it's important that we just absorb it. And you know, our thoughts are with you. It's obvious, but
So I'm pleased we have 4 days ahead, because they fall just outside school. So on top of that, my son is at school, so he's occupied. But I have also a 9-year-old who is bored to death. So finally, she has a phone, her own, and I have my phone back. And that literally happened yesterday. Okay, so I'm also the technician, yeah. So talk about backups and trying to get everybody organized, swapping SIMs and restoring phones. So that is done. So I have a pretty clear idea as to where I am with the assignment. You will have it before the end of June. I am okay about the palpation, but I will create the film. It's nice to have the date, so you know you're sort of bringing that the theory to an end. I would love to go and massage people, but I also know that when you're full of this, it kind of translates into your hand. So I am desperately trying to, as much as I can, just find a half an hour for me every day to try and do things. Kind of relax a little bit, but it would be lovely to find that rhythm again, where things are a little bit more settled. We have savings. We will be able to sort of see ourselves through until the end of the year. But once that dries up, you know, you can't pluck a boiled chicken. So I have to do something about it. So I'm starting to look at perhaps a short contract that I could do remote before I go back into, because this touching people, massaging people, at least will be somewhat different. So when you are adapting your business and you're just about qualifying, it's kind of, oh my goodness, so many plates spinning at the moment. But I am pleased about knowing the days. I just like completion. I like things to sort of be round up and okay, I've done that. Forgive me, tick. And then I can move on to do the next bit. Absolutely. So looking forward to understanding what the guidelines are, because where I live, I live in a small close, but everybody else in my close is much older than we are. So they don't see their grandchildren. And now I have a son who wants to see his own small children. I have a nanny who is at risk. So you're trying to be somewhere, okay, safe for everybody else. And then also a child who goes to school, and then social distancing when you are 10, 11 is kind of, yeah. So we're trying to be as sensible as we can.
Audrey,
yeah.
Have you spoken to your adult children about the impact that they're having on you and the effect it's having on you? Because they are adults and they need to understand also that you're their mum, but you're also a person that feels, you know, pain and the emotions and all the rest of it. Have you been able to have that conversation with them?
Yeah, I think there is one element of that, but the adult one needs a little bit more care than a typical adult would need. So we're dealing with other problems on top of him just coming here as a newly separated man.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are many variables in there. So I'm dealing with depression. I'm dealing with alcohol. I'm dealing with a touch of drugs. Yeah, I think I can't mix anything else into it. The cauldron is absolutely full. So
and have you got someone that you can speak to? Okay, if you're not able to speak to your,
yes,
someone outside of the home. Yeah.
Husband is doing a great job. I think he and I are pretty much aligned, and then we see, you know, we can see what is coming. It's just a realization that you seem to be the grown-up doing the running at the moment. Yeah. It's different. It's different. Obviously I am their stepmom. Yeah, it's difficult, a conversation. I try to be reasonable. Yeah. It's not as easy, I suppose that is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I've got having 2 adult children myself, I know that.
Yeah.
Bless you. Well, our thoughts are with you, I'm sure. And yeah.
I just haven't lost sight of it. I'm sorry I haven't produced anything. I do know what I'm doing, but
yeah. Audrey, but I want the video done. I mean, good try, but I mean, the video needs to be done. And, you know, you went on a bit for me, but hey, look, I get it. So hopefully we've got to keep hold of a little bit of humour, which we can here, can't we?
Yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah.
A little bit of humour and red wine. I don't know. I've always remembered somebody saying to me, you know, we've all had tough times in our lives, haven't we? And this idea that red wine was the answer to all, and it just completely. I can't swear too much on this particular channel, but you know, it does nothing to me at all, other than makes me feel bloody unwell. But at the moment, it's amazing, but afterwards, I feel like I've been run over. Anyway, bless you, Audrey. I don't know what to say other than, you know, our hearts with you, day by day. But yeah, it sounds, you know, you're doing the best, aren't you? Let me talk a little bit before I go on to you, Vicky. Let me just talk about the guidance as far as I'm aware at the moment in terms of PPE, just so you can start thinking about this.
Yeah.
Just so we know where we are in terms of our treatments and where we are with our clients. I think this potentially can change depending on who we are. But if I'm coming to do a treatment on one of you and you've self-isolated or you've been symptom-free for the last 14 days and you haven't got a temperature and you're fit and well and life is okay and you're not in that high-risk category, then for me to come into your personal space within 2 meters, I need to wear an apron and I need to wear a mask. If I'm outside that 2 meter boundary as it stands at the moment, then I don't need to wear a mask. So that's where it seems to be at the moment in terms of visors and gloves, providing you're dealing with somebody who has not got any of those kind of high blood pressure or, you know, temperature or any of those things that we're worried about, any of those sort of strongly asthmatic or somebody who's got a nasty cough, then that's not needed. Gloves are not needed at all.
Good. I was a bit concerned about that because you threw it in last week and I was like, what? And also, I think it probably carries more, you're more likely to carry bacteria on a plastic.
It's complicated, yeah. I mean, obviously, I mean, the bit in between all that is that I think the common sense bit here that your couch, you wouldn't have any couch cover on. You'd be putting somebody a paper roll on top of the PVC or plastic covering of the couch, so you wouldn't have a you know, cotton cover. You take them off, a bit like we did in the college, you know, that last bit. So the paper towel would go on top of there. I'm not using towels, I'm using a sarong, and that would be changed each person that you see through the course of the day. In the college, for instance, you know, you would get a sarong with a colour code to it, and that would be your sarong for the day to cover yourself for the day. And the fact is that they're all the same colour, but there'll be different tags to tell you that you've got a blue sarong with yellow tech, you know, that kind of thing.
So
but you know,
forgive me, where do you get those guidelines from?
This is from NHS. This is from the Health and Safety Executive,
Okay.
and from UK, is it government health or
government? Okay, so those are the guidelines for any any of us who are actually in that type of in that type of jobs.
This is about massage.
Massage. Okay.
This is massage. Things like hairdressing. There's a bit of a grey area, I think, because what happens is that once you cut people's hair and then you use a hairdryer, obviously the hairdryer is blowing particles around. So I think there's a bit of I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into if you have your hair cut, that's one thing. But if you have it blow dried, then that is going to be obviously moving particles around the room. So whether or not the hairdressers need to be using a visor, I don't think they need to. I think a mask is going to be sufficient.
Does it need to be a surgical grade mask, or could it be a face covering?
It can be a face covering. That's what I've got up to now. But hey, that changes. That's what I'm implementing in the college. That you'll be asked to bring along a standard face mask.
Okay.
But that might. I mean, hey, look, this all changes as we go along. But that's what I've been set up to now. And obviously the cleaning of all materials and the wiping down, and I was talking to Martha, who lives in France. She was similar. She's back working, and she does home visits. And her way of getting around this is that she brings all her kit with her, of course, and people open doors. So everybody's opening doors for her. She sets up her couch. She does her stuff. People bring their own towels. She is just doing her treatment, and then she cleans her hands, and people open the doors as she walks out the building. Okay. And that's working for her. It's awkward. You and your client both need to wear masks.
Okay.
Just your customer needs to wear a mask too. I mean, obviously, when they're face down on the couch, that's more. It's obvious. I mean, it's a bit daft, isn't it? But all the time they're face up and sitting or whatever else you're doing, they would need to wear a mask too. So both people are wearing a mask. It's their responsibility to provide that. So they've got to, you wouldn't take them a mask because they would do their own masks. And social distancing isn't your responsibility. You can say, look, we've got to look after social distancing, but the law states that actually if somebody's not keeping their social distancing, then that is a police matter, not yours. A bit bonkers. But just so you know, it's about, this is the rules that we all got to live by, and therefore we've got to kind of talk to each other and be, look, we've got to keep the social distancing appropriate. It is your responsibility. Obviously, it is on a personal level, but legally, it's the law of the land rather than anything else. And I think it just sets the stage. I think that we're all got to take responsibility here, not just you or just the client.
I think the hard bit is when thinking about when it gets to a stage where it feels like you could start to practice on other people again. I think the difficult bit I'm finding is that people think very differently about this, and it's almost like going to get to a point, I think, in X number of months' time where you think it sort of feels okay to approach friends to say, could I practice on you? But you're kind of not sure because people are in very different places about what they think about all of this. So I think that's going to be quite hard trying to navigate whether it's appropriate or not to suggest something like that, or whether you're putting people on the spot and making them feel uncomfortable. But I guess that's something we have to feel our way through, isn't it, when the time comes?
So Vicky, this week it's very interesting because this week I had Louis has a friend who he's been with since early school. Anyway, his mom is a doctor. And his mom has been trying to get the two to sort of meet up and have an ice cream. And I was okay this week about meeting somewhere at the ice cream parlor, but that day they were closed. And it's sort of you can sit outside at the front of the shop. Fine. And they said, well, I have this idea where I could pick him up and they could spend the night, and then I'll bring him over the following morning. And then you think, this is a doctor, yeah? She's a GP. And then so I think that the idea being, well, we are not infected. You are not infected. So two negatives, then we are fine. And it's sort of, well, I get the analogy, but those are not the guidelines out there. And so she goes, but it's up to you. You know, if you don't feel like ready for it, that's absolutely fine. No problem. You have to do what you feel. And it's difficult because I can see the need for the child. I also see, you know, we are not, you are not. That should be okay. But it's not as easy to approach. But you know, she put it out, and it's something you can engage or say, you know, I'm not ready. You just have to leave it with somebody else to see, are you ready for that or not? Mm-hmm. But I think it will be a little bit of, you know, tapping the water and see, do you feel ready for that or not? And I think it will be for a while, not 100% sure. Obviously, I suppose it depends who you put at risk. With children, I think that is a consequence of going to school. You know, that is the risk that we take. But when you're looking at who else you're in contact with, and then are they a group risk, and are you then ready to take that? Because you only know 14 days later whether or not you are. So I said to John, if we are to see your mom again, then in principle, we are looking at our children who go to school, don't take part in anything for 14 days before one of us go and meet your mom again. It's just a crazy situation to be in. But, you know, those things. And it is ultimately your decision whether you want to engage with that. Hard, isn't it? But I already started having those spark conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. This is tricky, isn't it? I don't know. What do you think, Vicky?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it still feels quite a way off to even start thinking about that yet. I'm just conscious that it'll get to a point where people are starting to relax a lot more, and, you know, we will get to that. So I haven't even sort of properly thought it through yet, but I think it will get to a point where it feels a bit awkward. I would feel a bit awkward, I think, because it would feel like one of those things that's not sort of critical, you know. It's almost asking, if it was already asking a favour of somebody even before we got into this situation, can you spare an hour of your time? Now it's almost like, can you spare an hour of your time given everything else going on? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it is, but economically we can't stay where we are. So you have the two polar ends, when the World Organization says 2 meters, and then the rest of us, but it financially, we can't have a business if it is 2. We can do half if we do a meter, and this is where is your comfort level. And I'm not saying that we won't have another spike, and I'm not saying more people will be ill, but that is the risk, I suppose, that you just have to appreciate, that it is likely it will still happen for as long as we don't have a vaccine. So that I don't know for how long we can be in this limbo of a economy that's half, and something has to go. And is that there are massages, and there are doctors, there are dentists. You want to see a dentist? I mean, my husband was in pain the other day. Luckily, he passed away after a week of antibiotics. But if you are desperate, what do you do?
It's okay. I was chatting to somebody last night on our group who lives in Wales, and dentists are back to work in Wales. So that seems fine. So if you have a problem, nip over to Wales and see a dentist.
It takes probably more than 5 miles.
So, anyway, it's I think always the debate is about our feelings and emotions about these things is one thing, and then here are the guidelines. This is what we've got to live. This is where we are, and as much as we might disagree with it, we've got to get on with it. Suck it up and get on with it, and that's it. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on the stuff that's coming in for me, and and also I'm sure that as time gets kind of closer, you'll do your own stuff and your professional, but everybody will start giving information, and there'll be clear step-by-step things. Consultation forms being done more online or on the telephone, and there'll be a general kind of reducing that treatment time to a minimum where I'm inside your space doing the work. But at the same time, we've got to get on with our lives and get on with life. And, yeah, cool. Anyway, I just want to give you a bit of an update on where we are and what's going on, the sort of stuff that I'm doing. And there's a lot of garbage out there, isn't there? A lot of garbage, a lot of anxiety and worry. Some of it useful, most of it rubbish. Vicky, where are you? How are you getting on?
Yeah, I had spent a bit of time over the weekend with the trail guide, watching all the videos on legs and all that stuff, and they were really useful, especially because the people obviously that he uses on these videos have such defined muscles. Yes. It's totally amazing. You know, I look at my husband and I think I can't see any of those muscles, and then you look at the guy on the couch and you're like, oh wow, you can see all of the different muscles.
Full specimens. That's what that is the case. People use just wonderful, lean, handsome, beautiful people. Yes. Most are just ordinarily kind of hairy, odd, getting on with it. You know. Sorry. Sorry.
So that was really useful. I find it quite. I had to do it in, like you suggested, Chris, just small bite-sized chunks, because I'd found, you know, there's actually quite a lot to get your head around when you're looking at all the hip and the upper leg and lower leg and all that kind of stuff. But I did find the book and the videos you've done, Chris, really useful in trying to piece it all together and just get a sense of how everything works and what those key muscles are. So that's what I spent my time on over this last week. I haven't done my own videos yet, but I kind of know what I'm going to do and hopefully get around to them this weekend.
It's a journey, isn't it? Yeah. I think generally the hip, I think usually people find it a little bit more straightforward than the shoulder. You know, the shoulder's quite complex in this whole thing between the humerus and the scapula and the complicated, 17 muscles that attach to the scapula. It's a nightmare. Where the hip flexors and the hip extensors and medial lateral rotators are a little bit more, I think, straightforward. I don't know if they are. Sometimes I think they are, sometimes I don't. But good. Those videos are brilliant, and he speaks clearly, doesn't he, Andy Beale? And I like the where the muscles are laid over the video. You can see them. It's helpful. And as you say, you just replay them, don't you? So you can. Good. I think I've got anything else I particularly want to bring in. I think it would. Let me. No, I was going to do no. I did think about. I just wanted to know. What am I saying? I want to move down the leg a bit and think about knee, but we might do that next week. That might be maybe to get some videos in around the leg and the muscles, the hip flexors and extensor, hamstrings, quads, glutes, that kind of stuff that I did with Judith. Would be good to see. Some hands-on stuff around legs, and I think for yourself, Emma, drawing on Andy. Is that right?
Yeah.
Drawing on Andy, and then maybe just role playing, just that sweeping moves of doing some massage around his quads, and just so familiarize yourself with those groups. Just go through the bony landmarks of the pelvis, and where the quads attach. There's let me just get the page on the trail guide. But the page
284 for the pelvis.
No, I was looking at 349.
Knee.
Yeah.
Trails of the knee.
So have you got the three trails there on the page?
Yeah.
So the first one, the trail, that just kind of D, the head of the fibula on the outside, lateral on the outside, outside edge. That's where the bicep femoris attaches, the hamstring, the biggest three hamstrings.
Is that on the outside?
Yeah, it is on that. Yeah, that's the right leg. Yeah, that's all there. That's the outside. If you see where B is, that tibial tuberosity, which I think we can all feel on our own knee.
Yeah, having a feel.
We've got that bumpy, gristly bit. That's where all four quadriceps come together. So our rectus femoris and our three vastus muscles all come together, all incorporate the patella. The kneecap is a sesamoid.
Oh, okay. So it's the patella underneath the rectus femoris, so that's kind of gets covered.
It's actually embedded.
Okay.
It's sesamoid. It's called a sesamoid bone, which means it's embedded in the tendon. So where the four quadriceps come together and then sweep over down to that tuberosity at the top of the shaft of the tibula, all 4 muscles actually embed in the patella. So that's so when we're moving the patella around with a straight leg. I think we lost Emma there. Did you?
I think she's back again. Is she?
Yeah. Are you there, Emma?
Do you have something like a lobby? I saw something about admitting her to a lobby.
Yeah, no, I'll click that. That should she should come on board with a bit of luck in a minute. Anyway, she's got a recording of this, so she'll go through it. But so that tuberosity on top of the shaft of the on the tibula there is an important. Emma, we lost you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was getting carried away with my knees, and somehow managed to log myself out.
I told you about that before. Yeah. Anyway, that's an important assessment. The attachment point of the quadriceps as it comes through onto the head there, and that bony landmark is a good one, because if you go out from that bony landmark around the outside of the leg, so you're on B and then you're trying to find D, it's a really nice. It's in level. It's level. So if you come to the D and then come round the outside, feel, and you go right round to the halfway round the leg. That bony bit there. We do this in the classroom when we come together. We go through this, and that shaft there is the important part where the hamstrings attach. So the bicep femoris attaches there.
Right. On the D.
So those trials around the knee are nice and actually fairly straightforward. Do it with a straight knee and also with a bent knee, because it's certainly the trail 2. Finding the B's, the medial and the lateral tibial plateaus, it's better to do it with a bent knee rather than a straight knee.
Okay.
You'll see when you've got a bent knee, they stand out really nicely, and you can get your thumbs right in there. B is really. Again, if you go flick the pages of the trail guide, it talks you through finding them really easily. Really good. So on page 351. The Waddley Walk.
Oh yeah.
That picture gives you a nice example, but you've got the knee slightly flexed, and that just gives you an easier access.
It's quite nice, but knees are nice and bony, so you're not kind of like wading around trying to.
Yeah, you're not waddling around in.
The flats.
And just while we're here, maybe just flick to the next page, 352. Interesting. It took me about 2 years to learn how to say this, but the pars anserinus is goose-like, so it gets its name. It's that bony tuberance on the inside rather than the outside. You can see their picture. Is it clear? Page.
Yeah.
Is that, 7.22. I'm looking at.
Yeah.
That pet of pars anserinus attachment. It's a really nice attachment and then on the other side of the page there, you can just see the 3 muscles that join into that: sartorius, gracilis, and semitendinosus. So 3 muscles all feed into that kind of medial on the inside, below the kneecap there, that pars anserinus. So that bony, just going through those, maybe a little video of you doing the knee bony landmarks. Just a nice. And
I find sometimes I can get quite achy knees if I've been doing a fair bit of running. What's likely to be causing that?
So what's the first question, Emma?
Sorry, I was writing my notes then. You said about achy knees after running.
Yeah, just increasingly so. I never used to suffer from it at all, and then I'd say the last sort of few weeks. And it's not that I'm doing loads of running, but the last few weeks I find that they ache ever so slightly, or I notice it more if I bend down and I think, oh gosh, they ache a bit, and then stand back up again.
First one is, how old are you? So is there anything that you can think back to a specific time that started off that pain? Were you running and had a particular incident?
No, in this case, no, there isn't really. No. And it doesn't always happen. I just notice it sometimes. Yeah.
Chris, I will have to disconnect. I have a BT engineer
Really?
me today. So I'll look at the end of the recording. Yeah?
All right.
Look after yourself. Speak soon.
Take care, Audrey.
We're going to finish in a few minutes, but anyway, yeah, no worries. Take care. Good to see you. Sorry, Emma. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. So nothing you can put your finger on related to the knee. Is there anything else that you've been doing during that time differently to what you would normally have been doing?
Potentially, I suppose I have been doing more workout videos at home where I'm doing things like squats and lunges, which I wouldn't necessarily do alongside running as much of. So that might be contributing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, are you warming up before you're doing those, or perhaps less?
Not sufficiently, probably.
Okay, that's interesting.
Let's do some digging around for half an hour. Do we need to warm up? No, let's just get on with it.
Exactly.
I do a bit, but as I'm getting older, maybe I need to do more.
How old are you, Vicky? You're not that old, Vicky.
I am.
Are you? I'm not. Whoa, don't go there. Right. Okay.
42.
42. Oh, flipping hell.
Spring chicken.
I'm almost 20 years older than you, Vicky.
No way.
Really? Not far. Anyway, let's change the subject. So, what would I say? The knee pain. The most important thing to realise about knee pain, providing you haven't had an impact. So if you've fallen over or you crunched or somebody's come into you, that's different. But knee pain, generally speaking, is I always look from the pelvis down. Always start. So firing orders, stability, strength of glutes, range of movement of all the key muscles around the glutes, particularly glute maximus and tensor fasciae lata.
Yeah.
So they would be, and the reason I picked glute maximus and tensor fasciae lata is that they both feed into the IT band. And the IT band is that very fibrous connective tissue that runs down the outside of the leg and joins below the knee on the outside.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of IT band syndrome, they call it. Is the pain, does it feel like it's in your knee, Vicky, or is it more outside or in, or you're not sure? Or does it just feel achy?
Just feels achy. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, Emma's right. I think, firstly, is there an event? No, there isn't. So then we do our range of movement. Then we do what we do good. And we check the range of movement of tensor fasciae lata, quads, hamstrings, and we put that together to assess where do we start our treatment. Same stuff as always. We will go over this in those 4 days. I'm very aware that we haven't anywhere near enough of that, and quite difficult to do on video. I mean, I can do a video. I mean, I've done bits, but we need to do that face to face, really. So that whole glute assessment and knee assessment and ankle assessment, we will do. It'll be one of those 4 days in July.
Yeah, great.
But range of movement will give us those clues. And the bit that I think that there is a distinction here between the level 3 and the level 4, because in the level 4, there's quite a few strength tests and assessment techniques that are really good for knees. I'll show you one or two because it would, you need to know them. But, there's some really nice kind of, what's this knee pain about? And 8 times out of 10, it will be fascial. It will be, you're young. Unless there's an issue around cartilage degeneration, which is unlikely, unlikely. This is to do with tightness of hamstrings, bicep femoris particularly, lower back pain. You're spending more time on your backside in front of the screen that you're talking to. So lower back, bicep femoris, piriformis, that group of chain of muscles through the bottom and down the leg, and then from the knee downwards, particularly the outside lateral perineals down the outside of the lower leg. That chain of fascia often is related, not always, but you know, if your hamstrings a bit tight, Vicky, or are you pretty flexible?
No, not too bad actually. And as I say, even the knees, it's not too bad. It's just I notice a bit of achiness now and again.
You're pretty fit, and you know, you obviously kind of have a routine that you change slightly because of life.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. You know, it just needs some. It's a lovely case study.
Yeah.
You know, hamstring. You know, it's a perfect. But our range of movement tells us where to. Sorry, Emma, go on.
That's okay. Yeah, just a couple of things. So, sort of whether it's kind of, it sits somewhere between an acute pain and a chronic. It sounds like a chronic injury, and that it's kind of aching. It's not kind of but yeah, it's a relatively short-lived pain that you've had so far. So it's just a question around that, and how you would you literally say, let's just see how it goes, because it might actually just be related to the fact that you've overloaded it during your squats, you know, or would you treat it as a chronic? Do you see what I'm getting at? Whether you actually say to your client at this point, you know.
For me, this is not really too much. An acute injury would be it's warm, it's swollen. There's a kind of inflammation there that we're thinking, yeah, this feels to me like low level grade 1 in, you know, basically she can run it off. Does it go away? Is it a big issue? Not really. So it's a perfect come and have a treatment, and you wouldn't worry about the you know, let this rest, just get on with your range of do a treat. You would tread carefully around maybe the target area around the whatever, you know, when you're massaging the lower hamstrings or the quads, you know, Vicky might say, well, yeah, that's where I feel it. Yeah, okay, so you might not go too heavily there, but you would very much work on the hip and glutes. So your range of movement, Emma, would tell you everything.
Okay.
And just work with the range of movement, and 8 times out of 10, that's enough.
Okay.
Job done. But this kind of low level kind of irritation, it will just work out. It will work itself out.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vicky, you might, you know, have to do a bit more lengthening before and after, and a little bit warm downing, and in a couple of treatments over 2-3 months, job done. I think.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
And I really like that kind of, don't make a drama out of it, but make the client kind of recognise what might be happening here. You know, that balance between, don't make a big drama out of it, you know, it's just serious, but it is serious if we don't do anything about it. Actually, you know, if we nail this in the bud or whatever, pinch it in the bud or whatever, then you'll be fine, and you'll be out running. And it's amazing how people who are fairly pain-free get on with their get on with running, don't really have treatments, pick up a little niggle like this, which is, they would probably do nothing about it. You get involved, you do 2 or 3 treatments, and suddenly their running is better, faster, they recover quicker, and they've never really thought about this treatments before. They just got on with running because running just does it for them, and they don't really suffer. They warm down a bit, have a hot shower, and job done. Now you're involved because of a little niggle that could have been forgotten about. Suddenly they come and see you every 2 or 3 months because they like the idea of the PBs. They like the idea that recovery is better. They like the idea that do you know what, I want to push out a bit and maybe do a half marathon, or push out a bit and do something, you know. It's a really interesting education about kind of, right, okay, maybe I should think a bit more about what I eat, etc., etc. Interesting. It's a really
I think that's
nice,
definitely true. I mean, that's what kind of got me into doing this course in the first place, was just going for the very first time to see a sports therapist back in January time for a calf, and they gave me it was such a good session, and they gave me so much insight into the things to start thinking about, that it totally transformed how I do think about this stuff. Yeah.
And because you've had that journey, you'll pass that on to your clients.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
This industry is all about, you know, this is what happened for me, and I've done some sort of intelligent growth and discovery and training, and wow, you can do this too. You know, it's wicked. It's you know, everybody's got that journey. You know. Right, I better go. I've got another tutorial in a few minutes, but nice to see you all.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Any other bits you want to think about or just ask about before we go? Okay, thank you.
No, not for me. Thank you.
something cropped up yesterday which I couldn't move around, and I just had to sort of get on with. So, but anyway, thank you for that. Joanne, if obviously you'll get this recording, but if you need to talk to me about anything, then we can do a one-to-one or over the next couple of days, a weekend or whatever. You can talk to me. Okay, and we'll see you next Thursday. And,
thank you very much, Chris. Bye.
Thanks so much. Have a good week. See you later, both of you. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.